Don't you want it? 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 You're losing
Episodes, 100 episodes. Welcome to the Deadlights podcast's 100th episode. I'm your host, Sam.
And I'm your other host, Leslie, and we're bringing you 100 episodes.
The 100th. We hit it. We hit triple digits.
We did.
Wow.
3
years later.
Yeah. But damn. Proud of you.
Proud of you, too.
Ow. Pump it.
Yeah.
Pump it.
Proud of you.
Pump it.
Bump it?
Bump it.
That's what the kids are saying?
One of those two. But you did it.
You did it.
We did it.
We did it.
We're here 100 episodes in. I can't believe it. I don't know.
I didn't expect it. I think that's what not in the way of I didn't think we could do it. It's more of like after we did the 31 Days of Horror Movies, I had no intention in my mind to continue doing that and turn it into a weekly podcast. So in that way, it was unexpected. It kind of just came naturally doing a thing that you and I really love to do. And here we are.
Here we are. I didn't know that 100 came after 99. Yeah. That's where I'm kind of stumped at. So I don't know. It pays to go to school and at least learn your numbers.
Yeah. In this case, it does. After this, we'll talk at 200, all right?
Oh, God.
We'll forget the numbers until then, all right?
3 years. 3 years later.
It's a miracle that we made it.
I know. Wow.
This far. All right. Well, and also, honestly, thank you to the listeners, too. The people who have been listening and watching consistently over these last couple of years. The loyal fans.
Our 100... God damn, I can't talk. Hold on. I have a tickle in my throat.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with the beach breeze that we're sipping on.
Summer breeze.
Summer breeze.
Amazing, feel fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Little cocktail that you mixed up for us for the celebration.
I wanted us to be able to like have a little sippy to celebrate our 100 episode.
Definitely. So cheers. Yeah. Cheers to you. Cheers to the pod and cheers to the fans.
Thank you so much for following along and sticking with us. It feels good to be here.
Feels great.
A 100?
See you for the next.
I'm still at the 50 mark, you know?
Like you're still catching up.
I'm still like, there's no way we've done 100 episodes. It makes sense in 3 years, you know? But like, 100.
It really puts time into perspective too. We've watched a lot of movies, and over these 3 years a lot of stuff has happened in our lives personally. We don't have to get into the specifics of that, but it's just you see growth, you see change of people, and it's definitely a time marker and a good time for us to tip our hat ourselves, pat ourselves on the back because I think we deserve it, and honestly do what we love to do, and that's review horror movies.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it.
Let's get into what did we watch?
Our 100th episode, 100th review of the podcast was for Session 9 from 2001, directed by Brad Anderson, written by Brad Anderson and Stephen Gevedon. Gelvind. I'll look that up later. Tensions rise within an asbestos cleaning crew as they work in an abandoned mental hospital with a horrific past that seems to be coming back.
Yay.
Spooky.
It definitely did come back.
So we're definitely going to jump into reviewing Session 9 as our 100th review. But something else that we're going to add into this episode before we get into it is we did the hard job of sitting down and thinking about the last 100 movies that we reviewed and trying to pick as best as we can the ones that we like the best. Top 3.
Yep.
Top 3 out of the 100 Leslie and I will be revealing our top 3 throughout this episode, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, and it gets hard. It just gets
hard.
harder and harder. But yeah, I'm just curious to see what your top 3 are.
Me too. We shall see. But in the meantime, let's get back to session 9.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this movie, which is a movie, honestly, I remember this movie's cover when I went to Blockbuster. This movie was just like, it looked like a creepy cover for sure every time I passed by it on the shelf and was like, I'm never going to see that movie. And here we are. Here we are. We saw it.
The freaking horror gods were like, no, you're going to see this movie.
And we haven't really had an insane asylum movie.
No.
That I can think about in this series so far.
Yeah.
So this was kind of a nice little subgenre that we had going on to explore.
Which I had just finished trivia for. It's Salem Asylums trivia at Hex. If you're in the Chicago area. But yeah, so I was very curious to see what this movie is because it was one of the insane asylum films that was actually filmed on location, and that in itself was very intriguing to me.
It was as if 5,000 people had walked out of a building and left all this equipment, and it slowly just sort of decayed, and totally amazing location.
And a lot of the production design in the movie was already there. I mean, we didn't have to do much to sort of enhance the locations.
So the fact that we picked it a couple of weeks later, that was all the horror gods.
Bucket, what
Like,
you doing?
Did I hear that you wanted to see this movie? Here we go.
Here you go. Yeah, what a strange coincidence. But I'm glad we pulled it because this movie, I think what you were talking about, it just adds so much to this. The fact that it is in a real location and that itself becomes kind of a character for the movie. This building, this real life place where horrible things actually happened becomes a truly terrifying part about it. You can't not think about the real things that happened in this place when you're watching this movie. And that kind of just is underlying everything else that happens on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Let's jump into the can. I'll take a sip of the can.
I was gonna.
This is a Deadlights juice.
A little ginger and cream in there, and along with botanicals.
Yummy.
Botanicals.
It's very summery. Very summery. So, like I was just talking about before, they really kind of established this building as somewhat of a character in this movie, and how they build attention is very much revolving around how they're shooting in this space.
They understand that the architecture was phenomenal. To be able to house as many people as they did and still like packed it to the brim of people. It was still not big enough, but you see the structure and it's humongous. The really sad thing about insane asylums, mental institutions, is that we were trying to, quote unquote, take care of our people and yet traumatize them even more. They were housed, but they were housed with 20 people in one room. They were not given proper food, nutrition, and they were experimented on. First and foremost, those are all things that, we just keep doing to people over and over and over again. And then we just close them down and put them out in the streets like stray dogs. It's so fucking sad.
Oh, yeah. A lot of patients ended up in the streets when this place closed down. And some of them, they come back. I found a half a dozen squatting up there last spring.
We're getting a lot of long takes on dark places, long hallways, and it's to set us in that of what you're just talking about, the realness of this place. That was a really successful part of this movie. This space was extremely scary in how they shot it, how they lit it. Good on them for really like making us feel like we were in there. It was grimy. It was green. It was dark. We felt like we were there with these characters. And on top of it, they're there to clean up asbestos. So this like dirtiness and sickliness is just now inherent, and you're breathing it in. These guys weren't very good about wearing their masks either.
Oh, Hank was a bad boy to the bone.
I got an escape plan.
He stole someone's girl. You think he's gonna want to put his mask on to cover that pretty face of his?
That mustache.
Cute ass mustache, yeah.
Hey, baby.
Mr. Steal Your Girl mustache.
Mr. Steal Your Stash. I feel that. And there was an interesting part of this movie where you said it during the film. It almost felt like a history lesson in a couple of moments where there were some scenes where
they were laying down the truth.
1871. That's when she went up, gentlemen. We called her the Kirkbride Building, named after Dr. Thomas Kirkbride. It was a self-contained town. Church, movie theater, bowling alley. You know? Oh, there's a lovely cemetery up behind the machine shop. No headstones, just numbers.
You know, it's hard to believe there used to be over 2,400 patients here at one point.
Yeah, so why'd they close this place down?
Nearly all these places got closed down in the 80s, you know, the budget cuts.
I did appreciate this movie for the fact that they really did lay a lot of the history down, how like fucked up these systems are. And they were mostly told, and there was a lot of sequences that were like this, where there was voiceover happening, overlaying images of the hospital, images of these guys in their real life. There was a lot of montage sequences like that. I like some of them. At some point, it felt a little long-winded. It was like 2 to 3 minute sequences of someone talking. And it just also kind of, I felt, slowed the pace of the movie. We're talking about like an over 100-minute movie. We could have cut, I think, 15 minutes out of this thing.
Or like literally just give us more of the building. The cinematography for this film was beautiful.
They hit it.
Those stills were what I had seen in IMDb when I was like looking up pictures. And that's what made me really interested in the film. Besides it being shot in location, just how gorgeous the deconstruction of the building, the deterioration. It had been 20 years of just the paint peeling slowly, the pictures like rotting. You can see abandonment of just like how everybody was just like, well, this is closed now, and just dipping.
And sometimes also we still would find some samples, some slices of, like some tissue samples or whatever it was, or blood samples. But it was crazy and super interesting to see what was still in the building.
And we're talking about mental health here, what they understood as mental health and helping people. So that is a big thing that I do like about this movie, is it really makes us talk about it. And it's interesting putting that into the context of watching films at a certain when. This when that we're in is very much focused on mental health. Someone in 2001, when this movie came out, it wasn't really that talked about in the early 2000s. So it must have hit different in a way. And I think that is the fascinating part about film sometimes, is how it develops over time. This movie seems a little more timely now than it probably did when it came out.
Mm-hmm. I need the job. I really need this job.
Spoiler alert, the main character is the one who's killing everyone in the end.
Roses? They're lovely. What's in the occasion, Gordon?
I feel like people in 2001, when they saw this, were like, oh, the ghost of Mary Hobbs is the one that made him snap.
Mm-hmm. I know this is difficult, Mary, and that's why we're here to help, okay?
I miss Peter. I miss him so much.
Mary.
Have you seen our doll, Mr. Doctor?
Who am I speaking with? No, Princess, I haven't seen it. Maybe Billy knows where your China doll is.
Silly.
In my opinion, he would have snapped whether he came into this hospital job or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me think there's nothing supernatural going on about it. But that's because I understand more about mental health, I feel like, now than I would in 2001. In 2001, people were walking out of this movie thinking it was the spirit of Mary Hobbs possessing this guy to do this. But I don't think so.
No, I think they were just drawing parallels because on Mary's files, it stated how she had repressed memories.
But in the 1980s, this new kind of therapy took off, repressed memory therapy. See, these shrinks figured that with these new techniques they designed, they could release hidden memories.
And for Uncle Gordon, he hid his wife.
She turned round before I knew it. There's a pot of boiling water all over my leg. I don't know if it was the dog barking. I don't know if it was Emma crying. But I slapped her.
Going towards that, I did want to mention, since we're in the can, the acting performances. I think that Gordon was actually really good.
Oh, yeah.
Great spiral into madness.
How's she doing?
She's good. She's tired, you know. It's when kids tire you out sometimes.
Yeah, no, I know. My dad's got the photos back from the christening.
Yeah?
Emma looks pretty pissed off.
Yeah, she's pretty pissed.
On the flip side, his right-hand man, Phil, oh my God, he was stiff as heck.
And he's supposed to be smoking weed.
No.
It's gonna get ugly.
Gordon was definitely, as a lead, well casted. Everyone else around him,
You know, towards the end, Jeff won me over. At first, I was like, who's this dumb fuck?
Yeah.
But then towards the end, I was just like, okay, cool. I believe that you're actually fucking afraid of the dark, bro. And then Hank was just a typical, sprawled out of the 90s. Somebody told me I'm a heartthrob.
He fucked Phil's girl.
Yeah, I'm a cheater and I love lottery tickets.
Don't shoot the messenger, Phil. I'm just relaying information. She says to me this morning while we're laying in bed to say hi to you.
And then the other guy, Mike, he was supposed to be the smart one in the group. That's why he was so into the tapes, but weird about it.
Was Simon there that night?
Simon? I don't know any Simon.
Billy's never told you about Simon?
I need to know what happens to Mary.
I need the sessions. Yeah, he was creepily
he was
interested.
itching, it was fucking heroin. He was like, I need my fix.
Yeah.
I need the next tape.
Yeah, I don't know. Questionable acting mixed with questionable writing kind of left, as far as the performance goes and the story development goes, things were a little bit lacking. But I did enjoy Gordon's performance. I did think that he was really good, and just a really sad case, and it goes back to the sadness of this movie. It just in the real sense and in the sense of these characters. Just a sad situation for everyone.
Gordy, I need you to open your eyes now.
Yeah.
All right, before we get to the next category, maybe let's talk about the list for a second. I was thinking that at this point, I would love to hear, not to the top 3 yet, but I want to hear a movie that you were thinking about, an honorable mention maybe that you were thinking about putting.
You're not going to think. You're going to be surprised.
Okay. Let me ask you first. When you were thinking about the movies that you were picking for the top, what was really standing out in your mind as the most important thing?
Memorable. Which ones have I not stopped thinking about? Pure that.
Still.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. And there was a lot of them that I still think about and are mentioned every now and then in the podcast. As we are moving through and getting more films, we compare them naturally. But a movie that I haven't stopped thinking about, but not my top 3.
This isn't even top.
Climax.
Wow. Gaspar Noé.
Just a experimental film. Torturous. Absolutely torturous. And I would like to know that I'm not a big fan of these movies, but look, hey, maybe I am. Maybe I am, and I need to accept it. Climax was one of those movies that was just so bizarre. And I was in it, and I needed to leave.
Yeah. Wow. Great honorable mention. Mine, this one I really struggled not putting on the top 3, really, because it's just a beautiful film. And I think that when I got down to it, I was really thinking about what movies really scared me, because that's why we're here. We're here for the horror. So this one did scare me, but it overall was more of a beautiful film. And that one is Audition.
Ooh, yeah.
Audition was awesome. Oof. What a build. It was a slow burn.
It let you settle in. We were settled.
I was settled in this great love story. In this awesome little love story that we have going on.
And
this is a romantic comedy. Oh, no, it's not. This is a horror movie. And then at the same time, it was just beautifully shot. Yeah, so that was hard not to put on the top 3. I love that movie.
You do.
Real good. All right, well, let's get back to session 9.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the meat.
Let's talk about it. We kind of started dipping our toes in it.
Definitely started talking about it a little bit. I think that what's interesting about this film is we are in a mental institution. So,
what?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Oh.
What are you doing here?
And so that should be the quote-unquote craziest part about this movie. But what we find out in the end is actually the people that came into this space each brought their own baggage, some heavier than others, but each brought their own baggage that in the end created their downfall. Assisted in Gordon's downfall. The baggage that he brought in specifically assisted in his downfall, and the reason that he ended up murdering every single person that was on this crew.
Found Hank, Gordy. He's hurt, and he said you did it to him. Is that true? Gordy?
I would also like to mention how we got a whole scene of Hank expressing how everybody has stresses and how they deal with them.
I got a way of dealing with the stress. You think Mikey reads all those books for fun? Nah, man. He's got an exit plan, let me tell you. And Phil, Jesus. Phil's got his stress reducer. He's got his plan. I'm sure he'll tell you about it someday. And there's Uncle Gordo. Fiber has always been his life. It was over there, it is here. Imagine that stress.
So I've noticed someone that did wood floorings when they were that age, 17, 18. Surrounded by these kind of folks. There was one person that was doing meth, and there was another one trying to get out the whole time, but he had been there for quite a while. So these kinds of groups definitely do exist.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cleanup crew of asbestos. This is not exactly a luxurious, glamorous job. So I think you're right. And that goes towards what Hank was talking about. You need an exit strategy. You need an escape plan to get out of here, because if you stay here, if you get stuck here,
that's it.
Your life is going to become nothing more than this fucking dust that you're breathing in. You're gonna die because of this job. So have a plan. Have motivation, have confidence in yourself enough to believe that you're better than this.
Just have an exit plan, dude. You stick with this job too long, it'll mess you up, man. It gets inside of you, the stress.
I would love to get to the cook if
Yeah.
we can, but before that,
We've done the can already.
we did the can. But I'm talking about the cook.
I've had too much weed. I'm so aggressive.
Lobotomy. But before we get there, I would like to hear your number 3 most top movie
my
of the
God.
season. We're getting back to that, to the ranking system.
Oh God. Okay.
I can go first if you want to think about it for a second. You went first last time, so
Let's do it. You go first. You have scribbles all over that I'm so excited to see after.
well, yes, I narrowed it down to I went through the 100 and just marked movies, kind of like what you said, that stuck out to me. Like they were memorable for one reason or another. I marked all those.
So she came from the woods. She lives in the dark or whatever.
They walk alone.
Whatever.
All those for sure, memorable. And I think I whittled it down to like 20, and then I whittled that down to 10, and then I whittled that down to 5.
Ow! I broke my eye.
Yeah, so I was whittling.
You
for
were
a while.
whittling.
I was whittling.
Yeah.
So, like I said though, when it got down to it, I really wanted to think of what movies scared me, what movies surprised me, what movies do I want to watch again. This one actually surprised me of how high I ranked it.
Ooh.
In the number 3 spot.
Ooh.
Paranormal Activity.
Ooh.
Yeah. Paranormal Activity was the dark horse for me in this running. And I just kept going back to it because when we watched it, it surprised me again. I saw it in theaters, and I remember walking out of the theater kind of being, I think, a little disappointed. But then when we rewatched it, and seeing again how slow of a burn it was, this buildup of this spirit getting closer and closer to this couple, and then it finally coming to a head at the end, it was terrifying. And on top of that, the performances I thought were like some of the most natural performances that we've had, because it's found footage. They have to feel real. And I felt like these were videotapes that we found and just put on. And then on top of that, this movie spun an entire subgenre.
I'm trying to solve the problem here. I didn't bring that thing into the house.
Don't do me.
You did.
Oh. Thank you, Mika. Thank you so much.
One of my just favorite little genres to watch.
Glad we
Because
pulled it.
go spook me.
It was
spooks.
spooky.
And when you can't see them, that's even more,
I can't speak to the rest of the franchise. But
no,
that
let's
first
not. Just the
one-
first one.
Yeah, the first
Just the
one,
first
though.
one.
Maybe we'll pull PA2 at some point.
PA2. Papa.
That's you. How about you? Number 3.
My number 3, for how fucking memorable, how scary, how visceral it was. Martyr. And I was
Extremist.
I was going back and forth. Another one.
Another one.
I didn't want to mention a movie that was so gruesome, but I was like, we are reviewing horror films. This was to me the pinnacle of horror films.
Will we ever be free from this? Yeah. Sure.
It gave me all of the emotions that you can be given in a horror film. And it was terrible. I hope I never see it again. And I know that it is so strange to have that as my top 3. But this is a horror movie podcast.
And this is a horror movie.
And that was the most horrific movie I've seen.
Fair.
But it's my top 3.
Top 3. Yeah.
So far.
Woo! God, I can't wait to see what's on top of these. Good top 3 picks so
what she
far.
said.
Good top 3. We haven't had one of those in a while. All right, let's get to The Cook.
Yes,
of Session 9. I think that a big thing in The Cook of this movie is I do enjoy the fact that we have a cleanup crew going into a space that is definitely a place that is full of energies, bad energies, and they're there to clean it up. And sometimes what happens when you go digging around places that have a lot of pockets of energy, those things start coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while in this movie, we really thought that supernatural things were going on. And I really like the fact that people were finding different elements of this place. And it was kind of sparking the paranoia through the crew. We had the tapes, obviously.
Well, then maybe Simon would like to tell me what happened.
He's asleep.
Help me wake up Simon,
No.
Billy. We must wake up Simon,
I won't
Billy.
scare her.
Billy, we have to wake up Simon.
We had the coins. We had this voice that Gordon kept hearing.
Hello, Gordon.
All these things then kind of felt like, as those were being found, the truths about these characters was then being found and kind of bubbling up in really negative ways.
Yeah, especially also because then once Gordon's psychosis broke, he went into Mary's little, what was it? What did they say that it was called?
Seclusions?
Seclusions. Not even a room.
Ugh.
Seclusions.
Ugh.
And so then Gordon had, on top of that, put his own pictures of his weddings, his child, his friends. We can see how he has then become Mary without the DID, just some repression of memories.
The Simon version of Mary.
Exactly, because Simon was the one that Mary kept in lock.
And where do you live, Simon?
I live in the weak and the wounded.
And it's this concept that, like, everybody can snap. You don't know what pressures they're going through and what kind of pressures will result to that. So, sadly, Gordon's was financial issues, family issues, and probably being just overworked. Because this was his company, right?
This was his company, for sure. I think, too, all that stuff definitely contributes to it. But there is this element that they keep going back to. It's a motif that they have in this movie of the asbestos and the dust that's in this place. These are the things that you're bringing home physically on your back from your job, from your stressor. What are those things that you're bringing into your home? How is that affecting the people around you?
Already, an itty-bitty piece of this shit may have gotten into your lungs, man. It incubates in your lungs. Tissue begins to grow around it like a pearl. Time you hit 30, boom! You're drowning in your own lung fluid.
I think that my biggest bugaboo of this movie, it was pretty slow. At a certain point, I was like, please, let's get to the killing. There was, I mean, there was a lot of buildup. It was a very slow burn. Mm-hmm. We never saw anyone get killed. They were all off-screen deaths.
There were. But it's 2001.
It's 2001. I get it. It's a low-budget film, too. And I totally understand that. You have to do what you have to do. But as far as the story goes, it felt at certain points like we were spending too much time building up the psychosis of the characters, where I was just like, I want something to happen. We spent a lot of time getting to know all these people, and just letting the space be the eerie part about it. But it wasn't until at least halfway through the movie that we finally got the tapes, and then it wasn't until the last 20-ish minutes where things were like actually like the pace was like this. We were cutting back and forth between characters, lights were going out, shit was going down, and that's when it was exciting. The movie to me kind of felt like it dragged at certain points because they were letting these like long monologues go on and long sequences go on where I felt like cut it down a little bit.
Right. I think also this was a really great representation of what you're talking about, just like the development of storytelling. We are being introduced to the climax more like sooner, so then we can stay in it for a little longer, as opposed to the last 20 minutes, because Audition is the same way.
Fair.
You know,
Fair.
like where we're building up the characters, we're building up the scenarios, we're building up as to who this person is, we're trusting people, and then it's shattered, you know. But Audition, in a way, allowed us to see the gruesome of the torture.
Yeah.
And then we were in it. We were being tortured along with our character, and we were like, all right, we need to get the fuck out of here.
There wasn't a big payoff.
No.
That was the problem, I think.
Well,
I
this
think
is America. This is America. They're not
America.
going to let you see any of that.
And
No,
that,
maybe.
I think you're right. Because and Audition came out in 99. This movie came out in 2001. We've talked a lot about how we feel like when we watch foreign films, they feel a lot
progressive.
More progressive. Things that we're kind of coming to now in the States. Countries like France and Japan and Korea were coming to them 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Maybe this could have turned into a movie that I loved. You know? If those last 20 minutes were like extreme, like Audition, and paid off for me to wait for it, it didn't feel like that, though. We called that Gordon was the killer.
From the get-go.
You said it. You said he killed his family. That's exactly what happened. We knew what was going to happen. It was...
But, like, I didn't know that we were going to get a twist of then pretending that Phil was the villain.
I mean, he brought it on himself, didn't he?
And then it all sort of was...
Yes, you're right.
Schizophrenia and a little bit of that.
For a second, it went to like, oh shit, Phil is unhinged.
Look at me. This is not easy for me. Okay. Do you understand? All right. We need to talk about Gordon. What about Gordon? Okay, he needs to take some time off, Mike.
And that's where I think the supernatural element helped them, because I was like, oh shit, I think the paranoia that's in this place is getting into Phil, and he thinks that Gordon is unhinged.
Are you questioning my performance? I don't know. Should I be? Mike, call McManus. Don't walk away from me. Don't ever fucking walk away from me.
That Phil was kind of just in Gordon's mind. And he was like actually in the right to be concerned about Gordon's mental state.
Yeah, he was like,
going crazy.
Let's get him out of here. He's going through some shit. Like we need to.
We didn't trust him because he smoked weed. But that is it. That is so true. We actually didn't trust him because he smoked weed.
Who are those two guys you were talking to yesterday? What guys? I saw you. What is this? I'm asking you a question. What were you talking about?
We thought that 2001 people were like, weed is really bad, so he is untrustworthy. And then we were like, oh yeah, he is untrustworthy because he's smoking weed. And then he's just a victim. He ended up just being a victim. I'm sorry, Phil. I should have toked up with you, brother, and been on your side the whole time.
But look, the way Phil was dragging that, he was like he needed it. Like he was just like, oh, I need my fix.
We're talking about an actor who's been on NCIS for like 20 years at this point. He only knows the other side of the law, so he doesn't know how to smoke weed.
You come with me. Hey. Fuck you.
All right. Before we get to the thrill of this movie, I would love to hear numero dos on the top 100 movies.
Okay, do I go next since you went first?
Yes. Do you know?
I do.
Okay. This is a dramatic pause.
It's locked in here. The Ritual.
Thank you for picking this movie.
When I first saw this, I didn't know how impactful it was going to be. And I just keep reliving that. I love those shots. I thought it was so well done.
I have never seen the production design that they were doing. The integration of the forest to reality was incredible.
Especially the scene where he's running away from the convenience.
Oh my God. And the big thing was like breaking it apart.
Yes, and we keep getting feed these scenes over and over again. Ritual gave us a different interpretation of the same scene, deconstructed, being fucking haunted. It was so good.
And just the fact of like, he is haunted by this moment in his life in this haunted woods. So I love that part of it, of we are mixing what is scary about this movie with the thing that we're talking about. And we're putting it directly next to each other and making them important and informative of each other. That movie is
good.
Fantastic.
It's every aspect of this movie to me is a 5.
Love it.
Acting, script, visuals, fucking props, just like everything. The reveal of the monster at the end was well done. Just gorgeous storytelling through and through. And I can't recommend this movie enough.
Go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie. Like, watch this fucking movie.
It hits right here in the core.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned it because it's a movie I've loved to bring up. I love to talk about. So thank you for putting it on your
Absolutely. What's yours?
Top 2.
Ew. I'm excited. That was a weird noise to make. As an excited.
Yeah, we're getting towards when I was starting to think about what I love about filmmaking too. And adding the idea of making a beautiful film, but also making it terrifying, making it something that is extremely scary and really hits home and follows you home when you leave the theater. And something that did that both through visuals and audio was Under the Skin. The movie was beautiful. It was, again, we're slow burning it the whole time. And you just know something is wrong. How they shoot it, especially the soundtrack and the sound. Unbelievable how they set this eerie mood. And then on top of it, we're talking about forces that we can't control. We're talking about Mother Nature in a weird way, of animalistic forces and how they operate in the world. And we're kind of seeing that type of being become sentient, become aware of whether they want to kill or not. And I thought that Scarlett Johansson's performance of that was amazing. It was subtle, but those micro reactions, those micro choices that she makes tells the whole story.
All right.
Great. Awesome. Well, let's get to the thrill of session 9. We have mentioned it before, but I think that they're doing a great job of letting the space speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned that the building is a character. It's definitely a character. We're protecting it.
Yeah, believe it or not, this place is listed in the National Historic Register. You know, that's why I can't tear it down. I mean, I'd love to, you know.
It can't be taken down. It is a scar. Something that we have to look at and remember.
We tortured people here.
Every time that we look at it.
This is hydrotherapy. Used to be cutting edge. They soaked the nut jobs in cold water. I guess that was a way to chill them out. I don't know.
So I think that they did a great job of establishing that from the get-go. And then knowing the weightiness of its history, whenever someone's in there, whether it's daylight or night, it's bad news.
Yeah.
It's a great way to build some sort of horror towards the space.
I have a feeling that eerie shot that we kept coming back to of the wheelchair in the hallway.
God.
I think that's an actual thing that was left in the middle of the fucking hall.
You know, the set dressing was really about just enhancing what was already there.
It was really creepy.
That shot down the hallway of the chair was just kind of a picture of what was going on there. That ended up being where Mary Hobbs' room was, which is just one example of the people that were kept here and the horrors that we're seeing here. So that shot that they kept going back to, I thought was very smart, and it was pretty haunting. It was scary to try to figure out, where is this coming from? What is this going to mean in the end?
What are they? You gotta wake up.
You tell me where they are.
Would you wake up?
Tell me.
Would you wake up?
I am fucking awake! Hey! Gordon.
I think it's really important to highlight that there were just even more people in there that were not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so overcrowded a lot of the time. And so a lot of supplies, a lot of people's time and energy were taken away because there were people there. We went through a list of these really weird reasons as to why you could be admitted to a mental asylum.
Hey, what's mortified pride? It says here, 3 patients were committed in 1889 because of mortified pride.
Let me see that. 17 were committed due to disappointed expectations. Henry, they're talking about you. They would have committed your ass back then.
Yeah, there were like these really weird reasons as to how someone who had more authority than you could send you to the mental institution just because.
Yeah.
This was one of the biggest mental institutions. You saw how big it was?
It was massive.
It was a bat, like it was shaped as a bat. Like, why? And you had the girls on one side and the boys on the other. It looked like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. It looked wrong.
No, it looked terrible.
Yeah. Oof.
But yeah, like that is what's so scary to me is the fact that this actually existed and we allowed terrible, terrible things to happen for so many years. Fuck. It's so sad.
Yeah, and scary.
It's so scary.
And scary. It's scary. And they definitely use that to their advantage in this movie. It really actually did come through. Like
the darkness was pitch black.
I mean, the scene where Hank was going through the hallways with just the flashlight, horrifying.
And they only used the flashlight.
And they only used it. Whether someone was in that darkness or not, it was still a horrifying scene, a horrible idea to think of walking through those halls.
Would you do it as an actor? Would you, as an actor who read the script and been like, we're going to be at location?
I would, yeah. Because I'm like, there's a camera crew right there too, so I'd do it.
You all experience the same hallucination.
I mean, maybe. We'll see. I'm open to that too.
Let's get spooky, y'all.
All right, let's get to the final ride of this movie right quick. The final ride of Session 9. And I kind of mentioned it before. This movie was definitely eerie. They were setting that eerie vibe with the location. But it felt a little bit slow at times. It felt like we were getting a little too much information about the space. Too much of a history lesson at times. Where I wrote down, can we just please get to the killing?
Fuck you.
And they were just taking a little too long. And when we finally got to it, it wasn't enough for me to be like, all right, it was worth the wait. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we didn't see much. Which, you know, like, I'm not a big gory kind of person, but, like, it didn't feel justified. It didn't feel for the pace of it, like you mentioned, at all.
It also was a twist that we called in the middle of the movie. So
we're like,
when we're at the end, we're like, yeah,
it's Gordon.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he keeps trying to call his wife.
She ain't picking up for a reason.
I did like him at the end with a busted ass phone.
That was so sad.
I just want to say how sorry I am for what's happened. I am so sorry.
I mean, his performance is what carried me through the movie.
It was so good.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was good. Good on you, Gordon.
Yeah.
Session 9.
Session
9. 2001. Wow. Before we get to the Smash Pumpkins, I want to introduce something that we're kind of switching up in the podcast. Instead of, giving you our Smash Pumpkin number and then giving you kind of a sum up of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
We're actually going to just give you our own custom log line from Sam and Leslie's mind.
Woo!
And it's going to kind of encapsulate how we felt about the movie. So let's get to the Smash Pumpkins. Would you like to go first? Ladies first.
All right, I'll go first. My log. Excuse me. My log line for Session 9 is: Phil took up smoking. Hank is a gambler. All while Gordon tries to uphold the cleaning company, but their new gig proves to be perhaps more for what they bargained for. Can they put their past behind as they try to exterminate the ghosts in this mental institution? I'm giving it a 4.
4.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, a little up there. I kind of liked it. I like the slow pace of it. It was more psychological to me, and I like that genre.
Very cool. I like that. All right.
What's your log line?
My log line is: 5 guys enter. Cleanliness and lack of time. Asbestos in the air. Darkness fills their minds. Is it the insane asylum you're checking into? Or the asylum you've been in the whole time? Session 9. I give it a 2.5.
All right. I love when we disagree.
It doesn't happen often.
No, it
honestly.
doesn't.
It doesn't.
And
Yeah.
I get pleased. I look forward to them.
Yeah. This is one of them. But like we say in every movie, watch it yourself, make your own opinion, come on back and let us know what you think.
Yeah. Because as you can see, we both have a different opinion of the movie. So
I want to hear what you think.
yeah, I did
All
too.
right. Before we get out of here,
Oh.
we do have to reveal our number 1 picks for the first 100 episodes that we watched. Did I go first last time or did you? I can't remember. I think
so
you
it
went.
was you, and then it was me, and then it's you now.
All right. So number 1.
Wow. Push them
Wow.
back.
This movie truly horrified me. That's what it came down to for me. Truly horrified me.
I know what it is.
I know you know. Truly horrified me, and I thought about it. I took it home. It was the asbestos on my back for a couple days.
We texted about it for days.
It was tough. It was a tough watch. It was the only movie that I ever actually had to step away from and just take a second because it was too intense. It was Martyrs. It was Martyrs for me. Everything in that movie worked to exactly what it wanted to. It put me in that place. And it's one thing to have a story that is that dark and hard to watch. But then on top of it, to have like really good performances from the actors. Something that I rank highly in what I think about movies is how the rewatchability of it is. How many times can I watch this and find new things and enjoy new things?
Are you going to watch this again?
This was one of the first movies where I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this again.
You
was
did
truly-
struggle trying to edit this. Yeah.
I had to watch it again
film.
because I had to edit it. So it was one of the first movies where I was like, I don't know if I actually do want to watch this again. But I do because it was great. It was a fantastic film. It was beautiful. It was so well done. It was so well acted. How are those things all existing at the same time? And that's what I love about this genre is we can go to extremes of Martyrs, of taking us to a really dark place that also probably does exist in real life. But then we can also go back to Young Frankenstein. We can go back to Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
These movies where we just had a blast watching, and it was still within this genre. So this movie is more of a mark of like how far we can push it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to put it at the top of it because if we're talking about a horror movie podcast, this movie was horrifying.
It was terrible.
Bye.
Yeah. It was my third just because I needed to include it. You know?
It had to be up there.
Yeah.
Fair.
God.
All right. Number 1 for you, girl.
As It's Been. As It's Been. Platform.
Wow. Since number 1.
I find the acting to be the most gorgeous form of performance in the most natural, but still like just gravitating. The story was well told. Still, I find myself comparing this movie to a lot of things, so therefore I put it in my first, because if I'm still watching new films or revisiting new films for the podcast and I'm comparing it to this one, I'm just like, all right. And I don't know what that means about, I was trying to see if I can put any of the new movies as my top 1 or 2, because Ritual and The Platform still live as my 1 and 2. And I'm like, oh, come on, that's kind of boring if I keep carrying these on. But truly, I'm just like, no, they truly have a grip in me with every element of the film. To me, is just gorgeous. As you are.
As we all are.
As we all are.
And that's the beautiful thing about film, art in general, this podcast, is we can all have different opinions and take different things from the same piece. That's what art's about. It's about perspective. It's about where you're coming from, and whatever works for you works for you. And that's why I want to hear what the people that are listening, what they think about our top 3, what they would consider the top 3 out of the 100 movies we've watched so far. I would love to hear that, because everyone has their different perspective that they're coming from, and that's going to inform the movies that they love, the art that they love. It's just like a little peek into the window of a person. So thank you for joining us on our journey.
Thank you. 100.
Wow. Should we see what we're getting for 101?
It's your turn. It's your turn. Hee hee. Horror gods. What do you want for the 101?
I don't know. I know I'm like, we got 100. What's the next?
Werewolf.
Because 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. Werewolves London.
I got 2.
Oh. Okay.
Here we go. Werewolves of London.
Okay. Yes. You want this.
Yes. A single mother gives her son a much sought after doll for his birthday, only to discover that it is possessed by the soul of a serial killer.
Not Chucky.
Here he comes in Child's Play from 1988. One of my faves. Very cool.
I remember discussing this movie in kindergarten, and people were so afraid of it. And I had seen it, and I was just like, it's a doll.
I'm excited.
I was
Have you watched this?
Scared. I have.
Okay, cool. Very fun. So this was another one that was on the 31 days that I put back into the bucket, and you were not there for this.
I wasn't.
I reviewed this with my sister.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm excited now to experience this with you, because this is a fun little ride.
I have a brother who's afraid of Chucky. We went to Universal Studios, and they had a full, like, a room. Oh, it was like during like they still were holding their haunted house kind of thing. And one of the rooms was full of Chuckies.
Love it. They had a Chucky
Literally everywhere. Inside a fucking blender, hanging from the fucking ceiling. I had to guide this man. He's so much bigger than me. And I had to hold his hand. And I was like, I'll get you through. But then the rest of the time, I was afraid.
Chucky hits.
Chucky fucking terrifies some people
He lives
to
on.
the core.
He fucking lives on. So we're getting another classic. Let's fucking go. What a way to kick off the next 100 of the fucking podcast.
You're so excited.
Let's go.
Yee-hee.
We got a number you can call.
Yeah.
We have and we always will. Please give us a call at
773-669-6677. And in the meantime, follow me on Color Me Leslie on Instagram.
And me at Beep Beep Richie T. You can also follow us at the Deadlights Pod. Also, if you're in the Chicagoland area, check us out at Hex Coffee.
Please.
Last Friday of every month, we are doing a horror movie trivia.
For fun.
Come check us out.
You win bags of coffee. And if you're not on the top, you can win other prizes.
There's so many prizes.
There's so many. People walk away, whether you're a winner or not, with shit.
Losers walk away with things.
Losers.
The losers will win. So there's no losers.
No losers whatsoever when you come to our trivia.
Yes. But until next time,
let's get spooky.
Ooh, I'm going crazy.
100. Wow, surreal.